Hello everyone. We've been working on some mesh and some super mesh, and so the natural progression was to throw some super mesh into a question with voltage. So we have a voltage source here and a voltage source here and a current source in the middle. So we're going to call that current source I. Now, some of you guys might want to just sit there and guess for a second as to how we might approach this. For starters, that shared area that you see in mesh questions, it doesn't have anything else. It doesn't have any resistors, so we won't have those shared values that you see. And the other thing is the super mesh principle. You realize that you can remove that current source. So I'll just move up. First things first, like, you really should redraw the circuit. So I'll show you what the circuit will look like after we remove that source. And you see that you still have that I1 and I2, and you should write it in every single time. So with those in place and the current source out of the way, we can begin to start this formula. So it's the same idea as before, where we take, we'll put I'll do my signs real quick. And so we have plus 20, okay? So plus 20, try to show you just enough. Plus 20 minus I1 times 6 ohms, and negative because it exits out of the negative, and then minus I1 times 4 ohms, okay? Same as we would before, and now we go straight to I2, and rather than making separate equations, all we do is we continue on as if it's one great big loop going the whole way around, okay? So then we just go straight from having negative I1 values to negative I2 values. So I2 times 2 ohms plus 12 volts equals 0. And I don't know if I'm explaining this in the correct manner, but I really hope that you guys understand that the biggest difference between this and other questions is that with this space in the middle and only resistors on the outside, resistors and voltage sources, you really are just, it's minus I1 value, minus I1 value, minus I2 value, minus I2 value, all in one equation, okay? And you will have questions like this. I remember questions like this popping up on many a quiz, so make sure you understand that concept. So this part really, if you understand that, it's really quite easy to get the equation. Then knowing what to do next becomes a challenge. So we know that I equals 4 amps, right? So we see that right there. But then we have an I1 that we have to find and an I2. And we don't know what those are. So the next thing we can look at is I1 equals I plus I2. So you see that I1 going around in the circle, coming around, and it splits. It can go in this direction and in this direction, right? And that's consistent with those two directions. So when you're formulating these equations, you just have to look at the direction in which these I values are going in. So we have I1 going around, it's going that way, and it's consistent with this I going down, so that's 1, and it's consistent with this I2, so that's 2. So we have this equation, which helps us a ton, because now we can look at, we can rearrange, because we know what I is, so we can put our I here, and have I1 minus I2, okay? And once we have that, we can compare it to our equation that we found above. So I simplified this equation and found this. And now with these two equations, we can formulate an answer for I1 and for I2. And this becomes a little bit tricky and a little bit annoying when you're doing it on a test. And realistically, you won't have to do a whole lot of this on most tests, but it's a good thing to know. I'm just not going to take the trouble to go through it though. If you guys really want to know it, just let me know in the comments and I can go through it. But this is something that you will likely have learned in your math courses with matrices, especially something like a linear algebra course, or perhaps if you're still in high school, this might just make sense to you. And if it doesn't, let me know. I mean, there's no shame in not knowing something. So anyways, once you've calculated this, and a good way to check this is just putting it into MATLAB or Wolfram or your calculator. A calculator with a matrice application is wonderful for this. You will find that I1 equals 3.33 amps and I2 equals minus 0.67 amps. And that is, you're answering everything you could ever answer on that question. So I really hope this helps. I know this is kind of a quick and dirty explanation of it, and it's not the perfect way to learn it. But if you want any more examples of this, I suggest really looking through your circuits books, because there are often example after example after example of Supermesh problems. And if you can't find any problems, I do have some questions and solutions that I may be able to help you out with. Or if you guys really want another video, just let me know. So I hope this helps. Take it easy, enjoy yourself. It's almost summer. So I'll be seeing you in the next video.